Okay folks, rule 303 here once again. This is not the first video I've done of this particular gun, but there's been some interesting developments around shooting it which I thought I'd share with you. So 8mm Mauser, Russian capture. As I said in previous videos, I have done quite a lot of restorative work on this, sympathetic restorative work. Any parts that have been replaced with original parts. I've not done anything in terms of buggering it. It basically is what it is. It's a Russian capture that's been brought back to life and is now a very good shooter. So what have I done to make it better? Well, the first thing I did was give it an absolute damn good clean. The one thing that Russian captures do tend to have is a lot of shit in the barrel, and that needed to come out. So various products, including bore foam, were used. And I would say, on and off, cleaning this thing has probably taken me a couple of years. I mean, in terms of man hours, you could probably do it in several hours if you really went at it. But, you know, I quite enjoy shooting the thing as well as cleaning it. So, yeah, it really had got the muckiest barrel ever. So your starting point really is making sure that you've got all of that crap out of the barrel and out of the action. These guns, the other thing with Russian capture guns that people need to understand is that even though German engineering was amazing, different parts for different rifles at different periods from different factories didn't always fit particularly well together. Okay, so even though lots of places were making the K98, they were separate factories with many miles between them in some cases. So not every part fits as uniformly as it perhaps should. And I'm talking about very small tolerances here, but nevertheless, collectively, those things make a difference. So for those of you that don't know, Russian capture rifles, once they've been captured off the Nazis in whatever scenario that was, they were stripped down and various parts just thrown into various bins to be service cleaned or whatever. They were then taken out of the bins very randomly and put back onto the rifle. So what you get is a complete mismatched Mauser. Now, most Mausers, when they left the factory with matching serial numbers on more or less everything. That is not the case with Russian captures, and that is why you used to be able to pick them up relatively cheaply. Now, the reason I say used to is because they're no longer as cheap as they were. At one point, these rifles were, nobody really wanted to touch them because they were mismatched. Now, as time has gone by and time has passed and a lot of the really good examples of a K98 have been snapped up, Russian capture rifles are now selling at a premium. So if you're in the UK, which is where I'm videoing from, you're looking probably at somewhere between £750 and £1,200 for a really good Russian capture. You can actually go north of that in terms of a matching rifle, but that's what you're looking at for a Russian capture. Could be as low as £750, depends how badly somebody needs the money. So yeah, they're going up in value. Now on this particular example, as I said in another video, I've sniperized it to more or less the same spec as it would have been. Now a little caveat with what I said about all original parts. The mount for this rifle is a reproduction. It's a short rail side mount. It's made by Accumounts, who are absolutely amazing to work with. Big shout out to Accumounts. I'll put a link in the comments for you to follow if you do need to get any kit from them. They do absolutely loads of stuff for obsolete, well, just old guns really, as well as some really cool kit for new stuff. So if you need something on your rail, you need a sight, you need a mount, I would try Accumounts. They are excellent to work with, really friendly people, really knowledgeable, and they will get back to you promptly if you email them. So Accumounts, yeah, great company to work with. That, I think, along with the sling, they're the only two items that are not original to this era when this rifle was produced, which was 1940. Now, the scope is interesting. This is a Gecko scope. This is a scope that is period to the rifle. So it is the kind of scope, a 4-power Gecko, that would have been used on this kind of rifle on a short side rail mount. Now, we've digressed slightly. So we were talking more about the accurization of this rifle. Now, I tried various things. I tried using aluminium back foil to bed it in. I really didn't want to start throwing bedding solution into it, you know, kind of like fiberglass and stuff like that. I wanted to keep this gun all original. So an internet friend of mine who's been since the old Lee Enfield sniper days, Facebook days, Brian Rao. A huge shout out to Brian, because he has been incredibly helpful in helping me get the most accuracy out of this rifle. So thank you, Brian. Brother, you've really done me a big favour here. So Brian can put you in touch with some shim kits, which are really effective. And I'm going to also put in a link for those shim kits. They don't cost very much. You get change out to $30 very easily. I can't remember exactly how much they cost, but they're not a lot. And you can pretty much accurize the rifle yourself using the various sort of cut out shims that Brian has in these kits, and you can really do a great job of shimming where your rifle needs shimming to get it back to original spec. Now, I reckon shimming my rifle using the kit that Brian put me in touch with, I reckon it closed my groups by around about an inch at 50 meters. Now, my groups were before that probably an inch and 3/4. So that's a big difference just from shimming it using that kit. You know, that's brought my groups into 3/4 of an inch at 50 meters. Now, some people might say, "Yo, anything above sub-minute of angles not worth even shooting." Well, you know, you've got to remember this is a rifle that was made in 1940, and you're not shooting it for accuracy particularly. You're shooting it for nostalgia purposes and because it's a grand old gun. Okay. Now, as I'm talking, I keep thinking, I've said non-original parts on this rifle. Another one I ought to mention is the stock, because the stock is beautiful. The stock is a contemporary, very well engineered copy made by a company in Italy. I can't remember the name of the company. I'll try and find them and put a link on there for you too. So, just going back to non-original parts, we have a non-original sling, a non-original stock, and a non-original scope mount. So they're the three things. Other than that, it's all original. So yeah, you can see that it is in great condition. I didn't intend this rifle to be a sort of original untouched example. I wanted this rifle to look smart. It's a shooter. I want it to look smart and look good down the range, and I think it does. I think I've achieved that on this one. So along with the Accurizing kit and cleaning that bloody barrel like absolute crazy using all the solutions that I can master, plus a really good bore guide if I'm slamming that bloody rifle cleaning rod down there, lots and lots, you need to make sure you're using a bore guide to protect your barrel. The other thing I did was I did some work on this trigger. Now, this comes with a big caveat. Anything I tell you about doing work on triggers is for information purposes only. If you choose to mess around with your trigger, that is entirely on you. But I'll tell you what I did with mine very briefly. The trigger system on the K98 is incredibly simple. It's basically, I think, about 3 or 4 parts most. So to take the trigger out, you use a flat-headed screwdriver and you loosen that screw there and that screw there, and they are the action screws. Once you've loosened those, you can pop the trigger out from the bottom and the action of the rifle will come out from the top, the whole thing. So that is it. That's taking the action out. Of course, you do also need to remove the front barrel bands as well. Once you've done that, you can get to the trigger group, which is here, obviously, and you can strip that down pretty easily. I don't even need to show you how easy it is to take that apart. You can just, there's a couple of pins to knock out and that's it. There are some surfaces in there that you can then stone using a good quality sharpening stone of varying grits, and I would recommend that you go very slow. The tendency is to find these surfaces that you need to stone and then you go mad on them because you think, I've got to put the damn thing together again and test the trigger, and dedicate a day to doing this. Don't rush it. Don't overstone, take metal away. You can't put metal back once it's gone. You can take metal away, you can't put it back. So if you are going to mess around with this trigger, make sure that you're going slow and make sure you're reassembling and you're trying the trigger out, because if you don't and you go too far, you've screwed it, you're going to be after a new trigger for your gun. The other thing that you can adjust on these Mausers is the trigger spring. Now, I inadvertently, by complete accident, adjusted mine correctly and it was a mess. I messed that spring up with a pair of pliers. The spring material in this rifle is very, very, very hard. Hardened steel, it is very, very, very hard. The spring was designed, I think, to last probably forever. So if you're cutting that spring, beware, you want to be cutting it at no more than half a ring a time, okay, half a coil a time. And you also need to be aware you are going to need the best quality, either tin snips or wire cutters. Your conventional Leatherman wire cutters won't cut it. You'll make an absolute mess. You'll screw up the spring like I did. You'll end up having to take off a lot more to make it look good again and make it work again than you ever intended to. And then you're into the gamble as to whether that trigger is going to slam fire, whether it's dangerous, whether it's going to go off without you wanting it to, whether it's going to be just too light. You don't want that to happen. So go easy when you're working on this trigger, or any trigger for that matter. Go slow, make sure that you're taking it nice and easy, and you're taking out half a coil at a time at the absolute max. Reassemble, test the trigger. If you do that, you will end up with a trigger that has got a cool pull weight. These guns were designed to be fired empty and turned around and used as a club in a trench, okay? The triggers are very, very heavy on most of them, so make sure that if you're gonna lighten the trigger, that you do it carefully and slowly, and take this advice and look on YouTube and take advice of some well dedicated and well recognized people. Even better, take it to a gunsmith. That's a bit hard in the UK because we don't have the gunsmiths that you have over in the States, so we have to do things ourselves a lot of the time, which is fine as long as you're careful, you know what you're doing. And the other thing, of course, you can do is to just get a new trigger, get a drop-in Timney or another popular trigger, Dual. You know, a lot of these manufacturers do make triggers that fit the K98. You can do that. I chose not to for two reasons. Firstly, I'm cheapskate. I don't want to spend the money. And secondly, I want to keep the thing as original as I possibly can. So I wanted to keep a military trigger in it. So that's enough waffling for now. I think I've probably covered the major areas of Accurizing this K98 in the state that it was in. Bear in mind, the rifle barrel was pitted. It wasn't pitted, well, it was pitted consistently from front to back and back to front, but it wasn't heavy pitting, but it's consistent. So bear in mind, every time you use this sucker, you're going to have to clean it again, and you're going to have to clean it for a long time to get the crap out of those pits. I did lead lap this barrel. It did work a little bit. It works quite well, but it wears off, you know, as the lead leaves the barrel. There's more about lead lapping on another video. Please look at that one if you're interested. So yeah, a pitted barrel is going to take a lot more cleaning, but hey, that's the price you pay for having fun with a 70, 75, 80-year-old firearm. That's it for now. Hope you found this interesting. Give us a like, thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and I'll be pushing it out to you as soon as I can. Thanks very much.